This is a video to show you what you need to have in your ISN for Unit 1A ISN check. Please make sure that your cover is fully attached to your notebook. If you need to come see me, please borrow packaging tape so that your cover stays safely on your notebook. You want to make sure that you have your table of contents and your cover completely filled in. So again, you want to make sure on page 8 you have a very colorful unit title and cover with our learning objectives. So page 8 should have a lovely cover page, getting us excited to see what we did during the unit. On page 9 should be an updated table of contents. If you need to update this, you will see a link to this on our school bulletin board, or you can pause the video here and write this down. This should be all the pages and things we've done in our lab completely filled in the table of contents. On page 10 should be a completed vocabulary sheet. So again, make sure this is all the way filled in on page 10. On page 11, we had a warm-up from September 3rd, asking the difference between the left and the right side of the notebook and looking at what we should do with our science papers. On page 12 should be the penny experiment. Again, make sure your entire lab sheets are completely filled in. On page 13, we have a warm-up from September 4th, asking you what are some of the qualities and things that scientists might do. Across from that is page 14, our 1-1, the scientific method notes. If you're missing these, check in the school loop locker for Science 6 or on the agenda when we completed this assignment. You'll find both the notes and the fill-in sheet there. On page 15 is our qualitative and quantitative lab where we practice getting some data. And then if you look on the back, this was a warm-up where I asked you to write down the steps of the scientific method and how we performed it in the penny experiment. Across from that on page 16 is our qualitative versus quantitative data. The chart is in the locker under qualitative and quantitative notes. So we copied this data table on 16. On page 17, you have another warm-up again where I put up a Where is Waldo picture and you listed as many qualitative and as many quantitative parts of the picture you could see. And then we also have on that page the exit ticket practicing looking at qualitative and quantitative data. On page 18 is the experimental design lab, also known as the helicopter lab. This again should be completely filled in with your data and times of helicopter time in the air and when it hit the ground. On page 19 is our practice on testable hypotheses, controls, and variables, where we filled this handout on. And then across from that on page 20 is the lab where we practiced identifying the variables and hypothesis. So your M&M temperature and color lab should be here. And again, make sure it's nice and filled in. You have a beautiful salting graph. The conclusion is there. And you also have your Sultan notes of what a graph should look like. So again, that's page 20. On page 21, you should see a sheet called Metric Mania, where we practice the stair step of King Henry and our prefixes. And underneath that was a warm-up from September 11th, when we looked at a graph and identified what was wrong with the graph according to Sultan. On page 22, you should have metric system notes. Again, these notes are in the locker if you need to fill in the blanks for any of these. On page 23, we have our Metric Mania scavenger hunt, where I sent you around the room looking to convert metric conversions. On page 24 should be Bill Nye measurement, the key after we used to watch Bill Nye. So you should have that all the way filled in. We went over that in class. On page 25, I have a warm-up from 9:15, and then I also have my King Henry drawing where we came up with a picture that helped us remember that King Henry doesn't usually drink chocolate milk. On page 26, there's a mass, volume, and beyond lab. This is where we practiced around the different circuits, practicing metric measurement. So I have my metric conversions, and then I also practice measuring length. Please make sure, again, the questions are completed on the back. If you ran out of time, you want to make sure those are completed for the ISN check. On page 27 is the article we marked up called Metric Math Mistake, Muffled Mars Meteorology Mission, okay, where you read about NASA accidentally not converting correctly. That should be on page 27. And 28 should be our Earth Science Study Guide, okay, with your answers there and your essay questions. So again, study guide should be taped on 28, 100% completed, and our last two items are the warm-up we did asking you to come up with your own experiment, and page 30, design and experiment lab. So if you're missing any of those, please check the locker. Make sure your cover is securely put on the front of it, and we will see you for the ISN check. Good luck!